randomly, but I opened up for Sister Hazel, that 90s rock band. And had a #1 hit with All For You. I think in '97 it was, and just like it was one of my favorite bands, and I was 20, I think, and I got to open up for them at the House of Blues in Myrtle Beach.
Oh, nice.
And and their crowd, their fan base is so friendly, and they're so hungry for music that is just fun and uplifting and thought-provoking, but not depressing. And so it was just a really good fit for me and my style. But I just remember the curtain opening, and their fan base was so great that they came early because they wanted to check out the opener.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and so we got to play a full House of Blues, and I just remember all the electricity just started flowing through my body, and not in a nervous way, but just like in I just felt so like powerful and like in tune with this thing, and I was just like, man, this dream that I had has gotten me to this exact moment, and I get to remember this forever. And other than that, like I've gotten to do some cool stuff, but I feel like the older you get, the more you understand just how things come about, and how there's no such thing as a free lunch. As soon as you learn all the lessons and can see behind the curtain, even the big moments, the good moments, they're not as surprising to you, so they don't hit as hard.
Right.
So I think the early days, when you first start to get a taste of success, those feelings of the first time you make $1,000 to play music, you're like, this is insane. And the first time you play for over 1,000 people, you're just like, holy crap, man, like I'm doing it.
Yeah, that's cool. So speaking of money, I guess you can use that to transition. You are the vice president of Rock by the Sea, which benefits pediatric cancer research and treatment. Let's start with the origin of that. How did you become vice president of that?
Yeah. That goes back to Sister Hazel as well. They started a floating music festival called the Rock Boat back in, I think in 2000 or 2001. And at the time they were, still a very heavily played radio band, and still playing, massive shows and all the major festivals and stuff. So it was, a really good time to launch something like that, like a fan experience. And so they've been doing it every year for 21 years. And I've been fortunate enough to play a few of them, but I kind of got into that thing through this woman, Beth Gosnell, who was the founder, and she's the president of Rock by the Sea. And she has been on all those rock boats, and just, huge music fan, and had a soft spot for pediatric cancer through, we've all been touched by, cancer in some way, for sure. So it's not hard to draw a line, but she had just been through some family cancer battles and had a heart for that and wanted to start a charity. And so they had started this thing, 4 or 5 years before I came along into their orbit. And I was just out on tour in Cincinnati one night, and this guy, Michael Tolcher, that I was just kind of playing with him. I was just playing some guitar and singing harmonies for him on the road. He was like, hey, there's this lady here tonight, and she runs this festival, and you would be good for it. Like, why don't you open up for me tonight and play a few songs of your own, and maybe she'll invite you to do the thing. And that's exactly what happened. And so Beth invited me to come down to Florida, where she's from and where the charity's based out of. And, she just plugged me into some spots. And then before I knew it, I was emceeing in between bands, and then I was on the board.
Oh, wow.
So now I play the festival every year. I MC, and I just kind of help execute like the artist contracts and stuff. And so now we've got all these pop-ups. And so there's, the flagship event is every Mother's Day weekend down in the Panhandle of Florida. But now we've got, I do a Christmas version in Nashville every year, and there's an Ohio event, and we're just starting to branch out now. But I just kind of slowly got more and more involved to the point where I am, the vice president now.
Yeah, that's wild. That's cool, though. That's really cool.
Rock by the Sea's been around for 16 years, and we've given right at $1 million to pediatric cancer research.
Wow, that's fantastic. So when you do these shows, are they like any genres? like of musicians can partake, or is it, specific ones?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely, especially earlier on, there was a lot more diversity of musical styles until we figured out, who our base was, like who was coming to these festivals and what do they want, Right. And so now we've kind of zoned it into, blues, rock, pop, singer-songwriter, folk, Americana, some country in there, but it's all styles where like songwriting is the main focus, for sure. Like it's definitely a group of people who want lyrically based music, and then also we really only book artists that are looking to invest in a community. So we have like our events aren't huge, it's always 1,000 people or under, and so we have a little higher ticket price because we are a fundraising effort, we're a charity, and but yeah, we ask our artists to interface with our fan base and to be in the crowd, and it really is an immersive experience, and we're just trying to set up a community where people feel safe and they feel like they're really getting a large benefit out of, you pay $250 for a weekend pass, but then we've got all these silent auctions and raffles and just any way we can to raise money for the cause. So we try to make it as beneficial for the musicians, to make connections and fans, and as well as make it beneficial for the patrons to feel like they want to give more because they get such a good return. Right.
Wow, that's awesome. That's really cool. What can we expect from you next, other than this documentary that you are working on?
Yeah, I'm flirting with the idea right now. Every winter it is like this. It takes you about 2 years to complete an entire record cycle. So 2020, New Year's Day 2020, I was like, I need to make a new record, and made the list of things, and then by February I was putting them into place. So I'm kind of back in that same situation. Little Winds took me a year and a half to make and then put out, and that's been out since May, and so now it is time to think about the next record. And so I've been writing for that and flirting with the idea of making a podcast kind of centered around, we'll tease that out. SteveEverett.net. keep in contact. I'll let you know. But
man.
It's just a lot of creative energy flowing around, a lot of songs, and then also just kind of seeing, how do I want to come at this next project. And so just taking a little time to kind of like let my shoes catch up with my feet.
Yeah, absolutely. So unfortunately, we have reached the end of our episode today. Our interview, I guess I should say. Is there anything else you would like to say, plug, talk about? The floor is yours.
I would just like to tell everyone that I love them. And I think that, I'm big right now on just being really transparent with my own struggles and just trying to, connect with as many people as I can and encourage people to go to therapy. I started going to therapy last year, and it's changed my life. If you're a full-time artist and you're in the United States, there's a company called Porter's Call, and they offer free mental health counseling for full-time artists. And that's where I went, and really pulled me out of a dark place. And so I like to include that at some point of everything I do, just kind of remind people, especially men. It seems like men just are not trying to go to therapy, but it really, that keeping a gratitude journal, and then I've been doing meditation on the Headspace app, and it's really helped me out tremendously. So if you're thinking about, if you're dealing with anxiety, depression, and you haven't done any of those things, then I promise you those things will help.
Well, awesome. That is fantastic. And it's funny because it's almost like this generational thing to be comfortable to talk about your own mental health. Because like I'll post something on Facebook, whatever, and I'll get a phone call from my mother, and she'll be like, why would you post something like that? Why would you do that? And I'm like, because I know if somebody else is feeling the same way, they'll be able to connect with it, and they'll see that, it either the situation gets better or there's resources for them, and that they're not alone, because I feel, because I struggle with my own mental health stuff, like I feel that when you are facing that stigma from family members that follows you into the real world, and so you're like silently judging yourself all the time. So when you see somebody else talk about the same thing, it's just like, I'm not alone, I'm not a weirdo, things like that.
Yeah. And what you just described is like exactly how we all consume music, you know, like, and for whatever reason, artists are really good at what we tell on ourselves in songs. We turn our most terrible and wonderful experience into songs simply so that other people can hear them and go like, oh, I've been through that too. I feel validated, and I feel like, oh yeah, that's a good way of saying how that feels, you know? And so it's the same thing, and we do it with the music, but then, you know, in our personal lives, we don't do it.
Right. Because that's supposed to be your own therapy, you know, just performing it.
Right. Yeah. But it's important, you know, it's important to be honest. What a concept that it would be important to be honest.
Right. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Steve Everett, for being on the Raffa Music Show here on Studio Blue Radio. You can catch us every Wednesday. Well, catch me, because it's mainly just me. I'm the Raffa we speak of. So Raffa Music Shows on every Wednesday, 3 p.m. on the East Coast, 9 p.m. in Italy. And if you live anywhere else, I'm sure you can figure it out. But again, thank you so much, Steve, for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. This was a blast. You're easy to talk to.
Awesome. Yeah. And, you know, I'd love to have you back, you know, maybe after you do the documentary, once that's all done, we can have you back on and talk about that some more. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you for listening to Raffa Music Show by Raffaela Madaffari, only on Studio Blue Radio.